What psychological trick did you learn that works on you? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the Vancher channel. Also, please share your thoughts on this video in the comments. Let's get started. Story 1. I've read this tip on a few threads with similar prompts, but when trying to begin working on a large task or project, telling yourself that you'll only work on it for 5 minutes. The biggest hurdle is to begin working on it. 9 times out of 10, you'll just keep going once you've started. Answer: I'm autistic with sensory issues, and I've begun using something similar for making showers easier. I set no expectations other than getting in the shower. We have a built-in seat in our tub, so I first heat it up with the water. I listen to an audiobook or watch YouTube. I have now met the goal of getting in and can just get out. More often than not, though, I'll begin with body wash, and sometimes I manage my hair as well. Either way, I have done enough, as the only expectation was getting in. So there's no shoot self-talk if I'm too overstimulated to wash up. And a bit of a dopamine hit for checking off that I got in the shower. Hope this helps someone else. Story 2. I motivate myself out of being lazy by wiggling my finger. If I'm sitting around being lazy but need to do something like work out or whatever, I start by just wiggling my finger, then my hands, then my arms. Eventually, I'm moving my whole body. Now that I'm in motion, it is much easier to get moving on the things I need to do. I use this trick all the time when I was going to the gym regularly. Story 3. As a chronic procrastinator, don't make a to-do list. Make a done list. A to-do list is an intimidating nightmare that makes it hard to start anything. A done list is just a hit of pure dopamine every time you add something to it. Answer: I kind of do both. I'll do 2-3 smaller things, then realize that I should do at least 2-3 more things in the day, so I start a to-do list and include the things I've already done so I can have a half-finished list. It also helps to make multi-step items into multiple items. Having 10 things on your list is a lot, but if 3 of them are already done, 2 are passive, and the other 5 are pretty quick, make the bed, take out the trash, etc., you're gonna have a list of 10 things you knocked out pretty quickly, and then you'll feel like you've earned that couch time. Story 4. Mentally splitting into a parent and child. When I'm overwhelmed and don't have enough support or don't know what to do, I picture myself as both a parent and small child. The parent consoles and supports the child, while the child freely expresses emotions and processes them. It's a great way to learn how to be kind to yourself, and extremely helpful for people who don't have a supportive family. Answer: yes, for me, it was that saying, would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? That stuck with me. I used to be terrible to myself, mentally berating myself for being worthless, made my low self-esteem even lower. But then I started talking to myself as if I was super young and needed encouragement. I celebrated little accomplishments and reassured myself through the failures. It completely changed my mental outlook. Story 5. If you want people to reveal more information during a conversation, just don't talk. Stay silent, and they'll keep talking. Answer: it is amazing at what silence can do. I often forget this as a tactic, but when I do remember, it's been successful. The first time I remember doing this in a professional setting, the guy stumbled all over himself. I caught him in a lie, and he tried to get out of it, but I stayed silent and just waited. Honestly, I stayed silent because I really didn't know what to say, but I wasn't about to drop it either. He ended up apologizing, and we moved on. Story 6. I think of myself and current me and future me. I'm a procrastinator, but one of the ways I avoid procrastinating is by getting all my things done early so future me can relax. The thought of future me having nothing to do makes finishing stuff easier. Story 7. I tell myself I don't have to floss. Just brush my teeth as a compromise. I get there and brush my teeth. I then tell myself, you might as well floss, you're literally here. I floss. Foot in the door, gaslighting myself into doing chores and self-care TBH. Just vacuum the hair in this corner. Just wash the ceramic plates and leave the Tupperware for later. Story 8. I didn't come up with this, but it has helped me a lot. When I'm overstimulated and can't focus because I'm thinking about too many things at once, I ask myself, what is my next thought going to be? Most of the time, that interrupts my thoughts and gives me a moment of clarity, and sometimes that's all I need to mentally catch my breath. Story 9. I like to wish for things I already have. Just simple things like, man, I wish I had a tuna sandwich. That would be so great. Hey, look, there it is. Kind of stupid, I guess, but nice. Answer: this is super cute and also works really well with kids. When they get sad or upset about something, you just start listing things you wish you had that they have, and pretty soon they'll feel a lot better. Oh, I wish I had a cool blue shirt, like one with trucks on it, you know? Wouldn't that be cool? Hey, I got that. It is cool. Oh my God, no way. They get super excited and it's priceless. Story 10. To get to sleep, pick a letter of the alphabet and just start thinking of words that start with that letter. Any words as fast as you can. Repeating words is okay. Proper nouns, names, place, brands, etc. are okay. Swear words are okay. Slang is okay. Baby talk is okay. Foreign language words are okay. Literally anything starting with that letter is okay. Just keep going as fast as you can. If you can't think of a word, just repeat words you already thought of. This constant stream of random words completely jams the internal monologue of my brain, trying to worry about everything. I have a brief thought about the meaning of each word, and the word meanings are so disconnected that I can't develop a coherent train of thought. That's good because a coherent train of thought would turn into anxiety. Instead, my brain is kept busy naming random words, and my body can just get on with falling asleep. Story 11. If you want someone to take what you say seriously, lower your tone and lower your volume before saying what you need to. Answer: I do a cough and a pause, almost a clearing of my throat. My wife pointed it out to me years ago. She said she noticed I did it when I wanted to be listened to specifically on a subject or debate. She called it my teaching voice. I'm generally a loud person because I'm deaf in one ear, so most people who know me know that as well. I'll be real quiet during a conversation and then cough and clear low and slow voice. I've got a deep voice, so that doesn't hurt either. It works surprisingly well, but now that she pointed it out, I tend to use it less because I don't want to seem pedantic. Story 12. A pat on the back goes a long way with me, and I fudge dislike it. I know what's happening. I know why management does it, and yet there I am like a fudge dog being pat on the head, all happy with myself when I'm told I'm doing a good job. It makes me feel so simple. Answer: positive feedback is like a substances. The more you get, the more you need the same level or more to feel like things are normal. My first office job, my boss was a grouchy 50-year-old man, and my mentor said if he doesn't say anything, that means you haven't screwed up. Didn't get any feedback, positive or negative, for like 1.5 years, but the team was lovely and the work was good, and I don't remember caring at all. Then I went to work for a different team in the same company where the compliments and thanks, great jobs flowed freely. After a while, they conditioned me into thinking I'd done something wrong if I sent out a piece of work and didn't immediately get some validation about it. Haha. Story 13. Incubating. This is basically procrastination, except before you do nothing, you go and read over, mentally absorb your task first. Your subconscious begins problem solve in the background. Then when you start the task, you suddenly have all of these brilliant ideas. Also, one I sort of invented is this innkeeper approach to my mental health. Whenever I hear myself talking negatively, I stop and think the words, who said that? Then I imagine a character that fits the words said. Then I imagine them being escorted out of the inn by me. It's anecdotal, but it seems to have reduced my negative self-talk. Story 14. If I need to decide between two things, flip a coin. Not that the coin is mystical, it's just that once it's in the air, you'll generally know which option you really wanted. Answer: for some reason, the majority of the time, I look at a clock the minute is odd. Not all the time, but certainly more than 50. So I assign the thing I want to odd and the other thing to even. Then I look at a clock. Most of the time, I get what I want, extra piece of cake, having another beer, but a small amount of time fate has determined I should do the other thing, order the healthy meal, leave a party at an appropriate time. Story 15. Occupy my brain listening to audiobooks, podcasts, radio, or YouTube so I can get boring stuff done. Work, chores, personal hygiene, cooking, etc. ADHD life hack. Story 16. I often have destructive, impulsive behavior. When I'm feeling impulsive urges to do something I know I may regret, eat junk food, smoke, have that extra cup of coffee, etc., I stop telling myself I can't do those things. Every time I try to set those firm lines when I'm in that state, I lose the battle. Instead, I tell myself I'm perfectly free to do the impulsive thing later if I want to, but first go have a drink of water or go for a walk. It'll make up all sorts of menial tasks to delay doing the impulsive thing, always sure to pick something very easy as the delayer. That angry little impulsive voice usually is satisfied with the option to do it later, since it wasn't told no, and the urge becomes manageable. The trick is to just keep fudge doing that all day. Fool that voice. It has reduced the amount of acting on impulsive feelings by life-altering amounts. So far, that impulsive part of me hasn't caught on yet. Brains are weird. Answer: this is 100 how I got out of a toxic relationship. It's okay to talk to him tomorrow, but I've got to get this work done today. That way I can focus on the conversation when I was trying to walk away, but was too addicted to the intensity. Then tomorrow it was might as well wait until tomorrow. Then it was it's pointless to talk to him today. I've got too much going on. We'll give it a few more days and then he'll call. Typing it out sounds so ridiculous, but I kept moving the goalpost in the best way until so much time had passed that I realized how draining it was to be with him and how much lighter I felt. Tomorrow never really comes if you keep using it as an abstract and not Tuesday. This makes more sense in my head, but it was the only thing that helped me break the cycle with him. Story 17. Disruptive physical reminders. If I need to remember to do something the next day, I will use objects to remind me and put them in places I know I will encounter. I like to switch them, but it's usually like on top of my phone, in on my shoes, tied hanging on the doorknob, next to my toothbrush, etc. Answer. I think I remember reading this in Diary of a Wimpy Kid when I was little. If he remembered something important while he was falling asleep or in the middle of the night, he would take one of his pillows and throw it at his bedroom door, so he'd remember on his way out in the morning. Phone reminders never work because I've been trained to constantly dismiss notifications, but I've been doing variations of this physical reminder trick for years, and it never fails. That feeling of being totally read by my past self sticks with me all day. Story 18. Learned this from therapy and helps a lot during my depression. Don't say I have to, say I can. Example, I can take a shower or I can fold the laundry. It takes away the burden of having to do something right then. You then can say, I can do this, but I also don't have to and can do it later. Story 19. Humans are naturally wired to want to take an object from you if you hold your hand outward, palm facing up. Story 20. When I was 15, I had a terrible accident involving a men's bicycle in my most holy of holies. I was in the hospital on bed rest with terrible tearing and bruising of my special lady. It was so dramatic that doctors and nurses from all over the region came in especially to witness the damage. When a group of medically trained adults all take a gasp of shock and horror when they see your female body part, you know you have issues. Anyhow, it was painful, as I'm sure you can imagine. Exceedingly, maddeningly painful. I thought just the pain might eliminate me. So I started imagining myself as a boat in the ocean, and the ocean was the pain. The boat was in the ocean with no escape. The pain was all that held the boat, but the pain was not the boat. I am the boat, not the ocean, became my mantra. And it really worked. I could slow my breathing down and get into almost a trance-like state where I could separate myself from the pain enough to lay calmly. Answer, I actually used the opposite. People would tell me to think I was the boat that is surviving the storm. And then a teacher told me, you are the ocean, not the boat, meaning that I am way more vast than whatever is hurting me at the moment. Also, when I am in the middle of a personal storm, I can think that it is a surface thing. Deep down in the ocean, the storm is not felt at all. This helps me a lot. Story 21. When doing chores like cleaning the kitchen seems insurmountable, I just say to myself, I'll just wash the cups, cutlery, and stack the rest for later. 9 times out of 10, I'll have enough momentum to just continue cleaning. Story 22. The placebo effect has been studied to work even if you know you're taking a placebo. And 2 placebos work better than 1. So I'll just refer to candy or ice cream as my placebo to deal with various discomfort thing. This is my placebo ice cream to treat my injured toe. Nom nom nom. Story 23. Do favors for your future self. Small things like prepping the coffee machine the night before. Then remember to thank yourself for doing yourself the favor. Story 24. Saw a stupid Facebook video where a guy said every time he has the hiccups, he just remembers that he isn't a fish and that he breathes oxygen, not water, and the hiccups go away. There are 5216925 ways to allegedly get rid of hiccups. This method actually works for me almost immediately. Story 25. It's easier to get people to do things they do not want to do if you phrase it as if you are doing them a favor or for testing purposes in the connotation of fixing something broken. Actually, you know what? Here's what I can do for you. You don't want to restart your PC to fix the problem? Okay, here we go. I just changed that one useless setting that has no bearing whatsoever on your issue, but you do not know that. Okay, going to have to restart your PC after that setting change to make it permanent, or as a test. Let's restart to see if that fixed it. Story 26. Placebo effect makes me think I'm actually doing the right thing, like thinking I've gotten results from workouts, even if it necessarily isn't the case. Story 27. I was raised being told you dislike change. You don't do well with change, and I internalized that to the point that I would start to panic at the onset of any change, either real or perceived. After a ton of therapy, I learned that my brain is ridiculous, and believes what I tell it. So I began to tell myself firmly and out loud that the spike of fear was actually adrenaline because I was excited for change. A year later, and now I get excited at the thought of a new adventure instead of perceiving it as something scary that I didn't know how to handle. Story 28. After constantly misplacing items, I was taught to make a sexy little narrative of where I put things so I will remember their location. Say, for example, you set your flash drive down on the coffee table beside your car keys. Before you walk away, imagine that flash drive wiggling up toward the metal circle of your keychain. Then imagine the flash drive starting to thrust itself inside the chain a few times. Imagine the commingling of plastic and metal in a sweaty fit of passion. Then walk away. A few hours later, when someone asks, "Where's the flash drive?" you will confidently know that it is spooning with the keys after an evening of vigorous lovemaking. Story 29. Do a difficult task with someone. Need to study for an exam? Get a study buddy. Need to make a difficult phone call? Ask a trusted friend to sit with you or hold your hand while you do it. Moral support has value. Online can be okay, but in person is infinitely better. With this said, I've sadly lost most of my inner support group. I desperately need to rebuild this because it is motivating to know you can get through the icky task and have someone to hug afterwards. Answer. This is also known as body doubling. I learned about it when I was doing admin for a therapy office, and now my whole friend group does it. I need to clean my closet out and clean the litter box. Want to come over and body double? I need to do dishes and laundry, but it feels like a mountain of a task. Want to come body double for me? Even if we can't be in person, we will FaceTime. Last week, myself and a girlfriend both needed to fold laundry. So we both dumped our respective laundry baskets on the floor, pulled up FaceTime, and just talked and folded. As you said, in person is better, but virtual is better than nothing. You don't even have to be doing the same thing. I'll sit and read while a friend folds laundry. A friend will come over and sit in the sun while I scoop dog poop in the yard. Typically, my people will eventually just join in on the task because it feels weird to sit and do nothing while your friend works. I guess what I'm getting at is the brain just really doesn't want to be alone. Story 30. When I want to fall asleep and I can't, I close my eyes and I make myself absurd thoughts that make no sense. Without much effort put to the thought, and I fool myself, I'm in a dreamlike situation. Story 31. If I think it, I have to do it. Example, about to go to bed and remember to brush my teeth. Now I have to do it. Win battles against yourself. When doing push-ups, sear a goal and do it. Never defeat yourself. One battle at a time. Story 32. Radical acceptance. Yes, those people hurt me, but I can't undo it. I can only move forward and not let it control me. Story 33. When I need to get a chore done, like a sink full of dishes, I keep my shoes on. Generally, I prefer going barefoot at home because it's more comfortable for me. But my brain equates no shoes with relaxation, so I'm not good at finishing tasks once I'm home from work. If I keep my shoes on, that keeps me in work mode for longer. Then I'll take them off when dishes are done. Story 34. The phrase might as well works really well when you feel lazy. For example, if you're in a kitchen and you're procrastinating doing some chores, you can say, I'm already here, I might as well wash the dishes. Story 35. If I am under a lot of stress and someone talks kindly to me, tells me in a warm, caring way, how are you really feeling? You seem a bit stressed out. Are you okay? How did this affect you? It must have been awful, etc. Then I start crying. It works every time. It also works on others. People under pressure, you pressure some more. They are hard af. They just carry on with whatever they are doing. Be kind to them and they suddenly break. I guess good cop, bad cop trick. But in normal life, it really works. Tears come like turning on a tap. Maybe it's just women. I don't think I tried on a man. Answer, IDK about men, but it definitely works on me. Not just in making me cry, though. If I'm mad and you can tell I'm mad, do not pressure me to say what's wrong. I will tell you, and probably not gently if you are the person I am mad at. If you let me work through it first and come to you on my own, I will be almost too nice in telling you how you upset me, Lowell. But pressing me when I'm angry and trying to process it is almost the only guaranteed way to make me lose my temper. Story 36. Treating the intrusive thoughts like backseat drivers. Let me elaborate. Intrusive thought says, jump in front of the car coming down the street. Me says, or we could not do that. Shut up, meanie, I'm driving. Works every time. Story 37. When I was a child, I had really bad anxiety and cried a lot. My karate teacher told me if I looked up, then I couldn't cry as gravity would work against my tear ducts. It stopped me crying, and I still use it to stop or prevent myself crying now. Story 38. If you suspect that someone is watching you, fake a yawn, then look to see if they're yawning also. Yawn. How many times did you yawn reading this? Yawn. Story 39. If I'm convinced a woman genuinely likes me romantically instead of pretending to so as to exploit me for money or something, then I become super motivated. I lost 100-pound lumps in just a few months just because I thought a special someone deserved me at my best. Story 40. You can say almost anything to me, and if you say it confidently enough, I will absolutely question reality even if I know better. Story 41. Being kind to someone is a gift, not a transaction. Don't expect anything in return. As soon as I stopped expecting a thank you, when I would do something nice for someone, opening a door for them, letting them into traffic, life has become so much more pleasant. I do a nice thing because I'm nice, not because I want to feel validated with a thank you. Story 42. I don't know if this fits, but once I was on the phone with my ex, I began to yawn and she goes, "Well, looks like it's time to hang up." I asked her why. She said when I'm done talking in person and on the phone, I'll start yawning a lot. I didn't think there was anything to this, but I began noticing when talking on the phone, and I don't want to be, which is pretty much all phone calls I yawn. Haha, I even found I do it with in-person reactions. At work, when I walk past certain coworkers that dread talking to, I will automatically yawn. Story 43. Every time you get up, do 2 to 5 minutes of household chores, such as filling up the dishwasher or folding some laundry. Story 44. Despite being very conscious of it, I was, not always, but often very influenced by my brother in liking or disliking something, some sort of media I liked. I'd become a lot more critical of it if he voiced distaste. Games I had no interest in whatsoever, and even disliked when I tried on my own, I'd gain much more interest, and sometimes even play long-term if he urged me to try. Very resistant to peer pressure, and was not really a people-pleaser personality otherwise. Story 45. Lists, and I got a fastener that you see on a dog leash. My keys are attached to my purse. I never lose them. Story 46. If I give myself a quick but reasonable amount of time to do a task, I almost always get it done faster than the time I've allowed myself. In my head, I think it's going to take forever, but if I give myself a time limit, it creates a sense of urgency that the task needs to get done. Story 47. I started talking to my emotional inner child as a method of self-control, and we became good friends. Often she thinks of wacky fun things we can do, and she eats less junk food. Story 48. I don't actually make a list, but as a chronic procrastinator, I love telling my wife when I've finished something that, I've been putting off for a while or that's been taking me a long time to do. Story 49. I learned to find my own safe space. Things were bad a few years ago, and I ended up having to see a therapist. She mentioned that when I feel overwhelmed, to go to the place where I feel like I'm in control of who I am and can be. I chose the kitchen. I'm a baker. In my local community theater, I'm an actress. It has made a profound difference. Story 50. Oh, I've got an incredible psychological trick that works on me every time. It's called the banana peel theory. You see, whenever I need a boost of confidence or a burst of motivation, I simply place a strategically positioned banana peel on the floor. As I walk past it, I pretend to slip on the peel and then dramatically recover with a triumphant pose. The sheer absurdity of the act triggers an instant surge of adrenaline and self-belief, propelling me to conquer any challenge that comes my way. Story 51. This may be toxic, but I'm used to it from my field. When doing things that are exceptionally hard, I generally tell myself to stop being a meanie. You've done this before. You've done worse before. You know more now than you did then. You think you're better now than you were then? Fudge, prove it. And oh yeah, this too shall pass. Keep pushing. Literally just having an active inner dialogue can not only distract you from discomfort, but motivate you to get after whatever is it you want to achieve. Story 52. When I feel like I need to cry or I'm angry or sad, I slowly breathe in and out, counting to 10 with each breath. It helps most of the time, but sometimes you just need to find a bathroom and just cry. Story 53. Tell myself that we're out of thing. Gotta give myself an immediate deadline. And telling myself that my kids or hubby need thing. It could be laundry or food or chores. Triggers my ADD last-minute anxiety and my need to care for others. Story 54. When feeling overwhelmed by a goal or task, just do 5 small steps towards it. Then take a break and come back for another 5. Story 55. Look people directly in the eye. When you are asking them a question, nod your head a little as if you are saying yes, and they are more likely to agree and say yes. It is an old sales technique that works. Story 56. I can't be told I'm doing something well while I'm doing it because then I get cocky and screw it up. It's like I have to always be working towards getting the praise, and then once I get it, I'm out. Story 57. When learning something new, Take the role of a teacher to teach someone, or even yourself what you've learned. This will reinforce your understanding of the concept that you are trying to learn. Works great on others that you are teaching. Get them to teach you what they've learned. Story 58. Whenever something really hurts, I think about the pain really deeply. I try and focus really hard on exactly what the pain feels like and where it is, and I think, where is it really and what does it really feel like? It's almost like I'm trying to grab the pain mentally, and somehow this makes the pain become hollow and greatly diminishes it. I still feel the pain, but it isn't tortuous anymore. I want to hold your arm in ice water longer than your friends or bet for 20 using this technique, and I didn't even make a face. The only thing it doesn't work on for me are migraines and headaches. Story 59. Since I read the excellent book Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg, I use his method to create a trigger, do what I should, then give myself a small chuff under the chin. It helps especially when I need make regular progress on long-term goals or projects. Story 60. If I keep my shoes on after I get home from work, I have the motivation to tackle my chores. I have ADHD, and sometimes starting tasks are overwhelming. Something about keeping my work clothes and shoes on keeps me in the mindset of doing tasks, and I'm able to get things done. Story 61. When I have anxiety about things like wondering did I unplug the iron before leaving home, so it really helps me to say it out loud. I literally say I am unplugging the iron, and it helps me not worry about it later. Story 62. I can usually stop an earwig, a song running through your mind, by imagining the old 3-bell NBC chimes. Story 63. My dad raises his voice, and I'm immediately doing everything I can to make him happy. I'm 38 and haven't lived with him in nearly 20 years. Story 64. If you want to decide if you like something or need something, rate it from 1 to 10 but without 7. This will make you understand if it's 8, then yes, you want it, or 6, then it's a nice to have but not a must. Story 65. As a person who was formerly angry and easily bothered by everything, I came to my own realization that I was choosing anger and all the other feelings that were bothering me. I decided some time ago that I wasn't going to give other people that amount of power over me and that I was the one in control of my feelings. It sounds basic, but it was like a switch flipped and I can relax in my own head now. I'm not saying things don't upset me, but I ground myself, try to understand why I'm upset, and get past whatever is making me upset, whether it's a problem I need to solve or shoot just happening. Story 66. Chained habits. I kept forgetting to take my pills, but I have a daily meeting at work. So I just started making that meeting the time that I take my pills. And once I got the habit started, it's kept working as a reminder. Meeting starts. Get bored. Mind starts to wander. Oh, right. Pills. Story 67. If you're in a crap mood and need a laugh, next time you take a poop, look at the results before you wipe your butt and say you fudge piece of shoot. Works every time. Story 68. Om Mani Padme Hum. Think it means compassion or something like that. Taking the time to breathe and let the blood pressure go down before opening my mouth in anger. Count to 10 types of things. Story 69. I stopped my chronic nail biting by having a rubber band on my wrist at all times. Every time I caught myself biting my nails, I would snap the rubber band so that it would be slightly painful. After about a week and a half, I was able to stop completely. That was over 10 years ago and have not chewed my nails since. I also use the trick where I do favors for future me. If I'm too lazy to do something, I'll think about doing it as a favor for future me, whether it's hours from now or years from now. Story 70. When you have hiccups, get someone to ask you to hiccup now. As soon as you try and do it consciously, you can't. I have really painful hiccups, and it works if I tell myself now. Story 71. Deep breathing exercises brings my body and mind back into the current moment and alleviates anxiety. Story 72. You can make people do whatever you want by suggesting that you'll do them a favor in return, or that whatever you want them to do could benefit both of you. Story 73. Putting on a uniform to do something. I work in a clean room. When I put the suit on, I'm in work mode until I'm tired. I also run, and sometimes the best time to do so is in the early morning. But doing anything I don't have to do when I first wake up is extremely challenging. So I put on my running kit, and often that's enough to get me out the door. If not, then it will feel like a waste if I take it off. So it might get me out the door after I've woken up a bit more. Also, when I run and shoot, seems like it's too hard to keep going. I let that feeling go. Just stop thinking it or anything else and focus on running and breathing. Story 74. If you have something you really want to get off your chest and don't have anyone to tell, tell one person. If anyone else finds out you know who said something, the key is to make sure it's just that one person. Story 75. You know if this is a trick, but when procrastinating a personal chore, my mother will start threatening to get started on it or just start to very minimally do a few things. If I want to reorganize a shelf, she might take 1 or 2 items off and casually mention it. This sends my control freak side into overdrive and I must do the thing. She knows me so well. Story 76. When women send me pictures of their boobs on the internet, I can't help but compliment those pictures. Story 77. When I'm feeling anything below the line, I will give myself a deadline to feel however I want to feel. When that deadline hits, I wake up like I just flipped a switch and it feels like it's out of my system. For example, I find out Wednesday that I didn't get the promotion. I'll tell myself, okay, I'm going to allow myself to feel like a failure. I'm going to not smile, maybe cry, or do whatever I do because I'm upset. Saturday morning when I wake up, it is going to be another episode of my life. It really helps compartmentalize emotions and thoughts to a short period. And you really learn not to dwell or hold on to grudges. Story 78. Sometimes when I worry about things, I ask myself, is worrying about this right now helping me? And sometimes knowing the answer is no, as it usually is, actually helps me calm down. Story 79. If I'm anxious in a crowded area, I get mad on purpose. Like internally think that person over there has no idea what they're doing. Or my boss is an idiot. Something to distract my mind and redirect my energy. My therapist taught me this trick and it works wonders. I had anxiety in a grocery store the first time I tried it and thought, idiot. Store designer put the chips 4 aisles from the dips. Incompetent people, get it together. All of a sudden, my anxiety went away. Story 80. Sometimes I work on tall ladders installing heavy things with hardware and tools that can be difficult to handle. I have learned to slow myself down and talk myself through it. I'll say things like, this is your job, mind over matter, this is what I signed up for, etc. Telling myself these things in the moment sometimes helps me find strength from within to push through a difficult task. Story 81. I'm very easily manipulated if people show me even a little kindness. I think I see stuff like that listed as a trick. Story 82. You get people to like you by asking questions about them. People would much rather talk about themselves than about you, someone they don't know. Story 83. When I'm feeling depressed and don't want to do anything, I make myself get up and clean something. I'm going to be depressed anyway. May as well be depressed and have a clean kitchen or whatever else I landed on that day. Might not even be a perfect job, but it's better than I left it. Story 84. Are you nervous for that event you're going to? No, you're not. You're excited. Your heart is racing and palms are sweaty because you're excited. This reframing does wonders for me. Story 85. It only takes 30 days to turn anything into a habit. When I'm starting something new, I tell myself this. I may count the days at first, but as I progress closer to day 30, either I lose count or realize it's not as hard as I originally thought. Helps a lot with waking up early, diets, workouts, etc. I only need to do it for 30 days. Story 86. The place I was working at was splitting into 2 separate companies, and I had to decide which to work for. One boss would call me into his office to see if I had made a decision way before the decision due date. I'd say no. He would sit and not say anything. I was talking a psychology class and had just learned that's one technique people use to get info out people. Most get uncomfortable because of the silence and start talking. I just sat quietly and watched him get frustrated because I wasn't talking. Eventually, he'd release me to go. So don't feel you have to fill silence. Story 87. Setting my clocks ahead 5 or 7 minutes seems to get me out of the house on time. Been doing it for years and it seems to work somehow. Story 88. My mantra is every day is another day, stops me dwelling on the past, or shoot going on now and motivates me to do something positive. My other mantra is every day is a school day, which makes me realize I don't know everything, and every day is an opportunity to learn something I don't know. Story 89. That podcast, music, or earplugs when I am in a crowded or loud place calms my mind and makes it less overwhelming. Story 90. When dealing with pain or a hard workout, I picture me with a baseball doing full shoulder rotations on a field. Very odd since I never even throw it, but that specific image completely blocks out the pain and discomfort from me. Story 91. When it comes to doing presentations or just talking in front of people in general, I'll often volunteer to go first. Not because I'm any less nervous than the others, but because by getting it over with, I save myself the anxiety of waiting for my turn. Also, if you're being marked, I find you'll typically be given brownie points for breaking the ice. Story 92. I watch TV series at the gym only. Then I know if I want to know what's going to happen, I have to go to the gym. Story 93. I do best when the things I need to get done need to get done right this fudge minute, or terrible things will happen. Unfortunately, the stress manifests itself as substance, harmful behavior. So I've learned to not give a fudge and let shoot play out however it's gonna, good or bad. I know this makes me a terrible role model, but I'm retired, so I have no responsibilities, and I'm aggressively not trying to impress anybody. Story 94. I have schizoid personality disorder, and part of that for me is I don't give a shoot. I can't set personal goals because I get nothing out of it if I do. I feel no joy or happiness or satisfaction ever, let alone from meeting a goal. I also don't get disappointed in myself when I fail. However, if I need to motivate myself to do something, I've found a trick. I use promising someone else that I'll do a thing to make myself do it. Works every time. It can't be a goal that takes longer than 3 months, though. I will fall through on those. The sweet spot is about 2 months. I can do anything inside of that if I told you I'd do that thing. But to do it for me, I'll never do it. I need someone else for goal setting. They don't even have to actively care that I'm going for it. I just had to promise it. Story 95. When deciding between two options, particularly if I'm having trouble figuring out what I really want, I'll flip a coin. Not to actually determine the winner, but to see how I feel at the outcome. Disappointed means I wanted the other option. Happy means that's the option I wanted all along. In reading this, I'm thinking perhaps I need to get some therapy. Story 96. I come from a family of binge eaters, very specifically because my mom's side grew up very poor, and whenever they could afford food, they inhaled it as quickly as possible because they never knew when the next meal was coming. I grew up poor, but not impoverished, but still picked up this behavior to a degree. My sister and I talk about it a lot, and the only thing that seems to work for me is every time I overeat, I make a mental note of how awful I feel and how much I dislike it. Then I remind myself that I have enough money and food and can have what I want whenever I want, that it isn't going anywhere, and that I can spread the food out and not eat everything at once. It's not a horrible issue for me. I was fat as a teen, but lost weight after college and have been good ever since. But it's still very much something I have to keep in mind, or else I could end up binging again and have health issues. Story 97. When I was in a crisis hospital during crisis mode, I'd plant my feet on the ground and look around. Where am I? What is around me? What are the colors of things? What shapes are around me? What is the color of the sky? Is it going to rain? Is it sunny? What are the sounds right now? Are people annoying, or is everything calm? It can keep going until I snap out of it. It doesn't take as long as I'm describing everything. It works, at least for me. Story 98. Smiling to force myself to feel good, like if something makes me unhappy, my unhappy behavior, like a resting meanie face, can make me spiral down into anger annoyance. So if I smile, I don't get as upset. The act of smiling literally makes you feel good. It's pretty magical, TBH. Story 99. One party can be embarrassed, you or them. If you refuse to be embarrassed, they will. Lean into your farts, misspeaking, and mistakes with confidence. Story 100. Body doubling is huge for helping me work from home. My friend and I started it during COVID. Both sit in a voice call while we work. Sometimes we talk in non-work stuff. Sometimes we tell each other about the work. Sometimes we work in silence. But it always helps me stop procrastinating and start working because I'm being held accountable by someone. Story 101. If I'm eating something like chips or ice cream and having a hard time stopping here, what I do, I grab a last handful of spoonful and then close the rest and out it away before I eat that last bit. IDKY, but it works like a charm. Story 102. Was diagnosed since early teens with severe depression, which often had me just in bed, no motivation, not wanting to do things, even though I knew I had to do them. Once I was on a thread where someone's therapist said, lift your arm, and the person did. You probably had no intention of doing it. Maybe you didn't want to do it, but you did anyway. Now, whenever I feel like I can't do anything or I'm not motivated to do anything, I think of this and get up and push myself. Usually end up feeling better once it's done. Story 103. On a first date, don't immediately smile when you see them. Really look at their face first. Then let a natural smile flood your face. 100 of the time, it makes the person feel better. That's step one in seducing them. Story 104. I have illness anxiety, and it improved greatly, except for during really high stress times, when I started this sort of self-reassuring thought process. Oh, my chest hurts? Maybe I'm having a heart attack. It's in one small spot. I probably just pulled a muscle. If it's still there in a few days, maybe then I'll go see a doctor about it. Thinking up a more minor thing it could be puts it out of my mind for the moment. A few days later, if it's nothing, I've forgotten about it. And if it's not, then sure, maybe I start to treat it like a legitimate health concern. Story 105. ADHD, time blindness, appointment paralysis. I won't have work till 4 p.m. I wake up at 10 a.m. I won't do anything else until I have to get ready out of fear of losing track of time. Now I set alarms for each stage. Waking up, what time I need to eat by, start getting ready by, 3 minutes before I need to leave, etc. Helps me reduce the anxiety about it knowing I don't have to keep looking at the clock. Story 106. I have three. I have social anxiety and ADHD. I've been working through in therapy. I'm pretty logical, so it's challenging for me to breathe. Though the anxiety, because my brain will be like, okay, let's get this breathing done so we can be better, which defeats the purpose. I needed a way to override my logical side and rewire my brain to work the way I need it to. The first, at the end of a warm, hot shower, place one hand on the wall and one hand on the temperature controller. We are going to turn the water to cold and count to 5 Mississippis and turn it off. But if before I turn the dial to cold, I start to think, oh my God, this is going to be cold, I need to brace myself, and my heart rate starts to prepare for that change. I take my hand off the dial and deep breathe, a big deep stomach in through the nose, out through the mouth breath, until I feel like my heart rate has steadied. Place my hand back on the dial. It'll repeat this cycle until I think as I turn the dial. I am warm, I will not change. I control my response and my heart rate is steady and I am relaxed. I turn the cold water on, take a deep breath and count to 5. Then turn the water off and get out. Y'all, it's weird how well this worked for me. But it was hard. I cried the first time I did it. It's just water, I know. But the fear of the idea was worse than the idea itself. I will go in the shower just to do this if I'm having a bad anxiety day. The second one is more for my ADHD. I need lists because I get overwhelmed. But the hardest part is the order of the things I need to do. Like, how do I write a list if I can't think of one? So I grab construction paper, cut into strips, or index cards and a pretty Sharpie and write out everything in my head. For example, to clean my living room, clean the fan, clean the baseboards, clean my windows, vacuum. Then I look at all the items and spend a minute arranging them in an order that makes sense to me. I was talking to my therapist about cleaning my living room and that I didn't know where to start, and she changed the conversation to something else, but then brought up cleaning her car, and somehow I recommended cleaning it top to bottom. And she was like, shouldn't be the same for your house? Like, of course it should, but I was so blocked with my anxiety I couldn't see my own situation. When I'm done with one, I rip up the card. The last one she taught me, suffering, pain, resistance. I deal with a neurological issue that leaves me in pain and affects my daily life. I don't let it stop me, but God, it pisses me off. But I never correlated resistance as anger. The fact I got angry with my body for this shoot happening was causing me to suffer more. I will be in pain. We will all be in pain, either physically or emotionally, but we do not have to let the anger or being scared of feeling these emotions cause us to suffer more. If we spend the energy trying to avoid it, we are giving the pain more attention. I cannot control everything. I hope this helps someone because these have been life-changing for me. Story 107. Whenever I had long shifts at my old job, 8 to 10 hours depending, I would mentally break it down into multiple 4-hour shifts. After going on my break to make it to the first 4 hour, I'd refresh and tell myself I just got there. It made the shifts feel more manageable personally. Story 108. I Pavloved myself. Years ago, I used to take a certain birth control that had to be taken at the same time every day, and thankfully they were small pills. So if I didn't have any drink around, I just used my saliva to get it down. It got to the point where anytime I'd think about birth control or having to take my pill, my mouth would intensely water on its own without me having to actively think about doing it. Even now, typing this, my mouth is watering because I'm thinking about birth control. Story 109. If I get bad news, not life or passing, and have to break it to someone else who will take it worse, I act more upset than I might actually be, as it sparks more empathy than anger at the situation. Story 110. Recently started intermittent fasting. I've convinced myself that the hunger pangs are fat burning. It's science. Story 111. Getting through every run by telling myself, just do 1 mile. You know, you can run a mile. Rinse and repeat till mile goal is complete. Story 112. Certain music for certain tasks. Music with words is for cleaning. Viking music is for spinning or crafting. Music scores are for teacher work, like writing or grading. Lo-fi beats is used for mental work at school. Not sure if it's a trick or just how I work. Story 113. Not really for me, but something as a manager I reserve for emergencies when 2 people in the workplace dislike each other for some reason. If it's bad, but not eliminate each other, screaming in the workplace bad, Tell them to start looking at the good, positive things the other does throughout the day. This forces them to actually look at the good instead of the bad that has been driving this behavior. If it's really bad, like have to resort to paperwork, or they're really about to eliminate each other, you have to regulate it more. At the end of the day, they'll be in your office, and they each have to say something the other one did good or well that day in front of the other. Again, forces them to look at the positive, and they're now acknowledging it to each other's faces. Also, can't hurt to recommend the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, because when people are at each other's throats for no apparent reason, it's most likely due to low emotional intelligence, and reading about it usually helps to improve it. Story 114. Not sure if this counts, but I recently learned about habit stacking. So if you're trying to incorporate a new task into your routine, you take something you already do and stack it with the new thing. I'm not the best at scooping my cat's litter box every day, but since I feed them every day, I just scoop the litter box after I feed them, and now it's just a part of my morning routine. Story 115. None. I mean, I'm sure that there are psychological tricks that I respond to. I just have no clue what they are, because if I did know, they wouldn't work anymore. And they do, I guess. Story 116. My dad passed away years ago, and I had work the day after. I didn't really know how to cope, so I got this thought in my mind that helped a lot. I pretended that his only wish was that I didn't mourn his passing. A lot of signs and his character pointed that to being true. He was a kind man and very legitimate, but it didn't matter if it was true or not. It's what I had to believe to move on. In that instant, the only thing I could do was grant his wishes, and so I moved on. Story 117. If you're going to have a panic attack, think of yourself on a roller coaster on your way up to the top and act at the moment that you think you're really going to lose it. Just scream your fudge lungs out, and you'll be just fine. Story 118. Have you tried being motivated at the lowest part of your depression? For me, even getting out of bed or making food is a hard struggle. So trying to get myself motivated right then, right there, is really hard. That's why I mentioned that you can do things, but you don't have to. And to do them when you do feel like doing them, and not in your lowest part of depression. Story 119. I saw a comment on here saying they split into a parent to console and a child to express freely a few days ago and thought it was a great tip. Then I bump into a self-hypnosis session by Marissa Peer on YouTube that she took me back to visit my old house and meet my 5YO, then guided me to bring her to my home now. Aside from getting healed from childhood traumas and finding self-acceptance, self-love, I guess I'm living with little me from now on. Hope that won't freak my partner in the future, Law. Story 120. That works on me? Stop looking at things like big projects. Break down all big tasks into little ones. I have ADHD, constantly starting and stopping things until the task gets too big and I'm overwhelmed and I'd rather do something else. So I have to ignore most of it and focus on one task. Cleaning the whole yard sucks. I don't want to do it, but if I focus on one task, let's trim that tree that keeps scratching the car. And next thing I know, I finished and I start on the next tree, etc. Just one small piece at a time. A trick that works on others? Here's a funny one. If someone asks me what I think about something that I really think is horrible, I describe one thing super enthusiastically. For example, I had a roommate come in with red pants one day, super excited, and goes, "Dude, check out these new pants I got. They were expensive. They're great, right?" They were not. I said, "Holy shoot, those are the reddest pants ever." He goes, "I know, right?" And that was it. That has worked so many times. Female friend, "Do you like this dress I bought and is wearing?" Me, "Ooh, I've never seen one with that kind of pattern. Where did you get it?" Instant get out of hot water, awkward situation card. You're welcome. Story 121. While crossing a street, I look at a fictional point behind oncoming pedestrians and walk with intent. Everyone moves out of your way without the awkward sidestep that occurs when you make eye contact. Story 122. I suffer from anxiety by anticipation. Sorry if this is not the name in English, not my first language, but I think you understand the concept. The best way I've found to avoid it is mentally placing myself on a time after the triggering event has already happened. Story 123. I assigned narrators to my internal dialogues to help distinguish things I want to hard-tell myself versus things I don't. The logical and supportive one I assigned to Ian McKellen. He helps stand up to the negative one with facts about things I've done, progress I've made towards my goals, helps to reinforce the fact that my needs are valid and that I'm naturally self-sufficient and not burdensome on anyone, emotional or otherwise. The negative one, who was most present in my head throughout most of my teens, 20s, and early 30s, I gave the most nasally annoying voice I could think of as a means to help change the channel, like Michelle Wolf X20. I know she's probably a nice person and would never personally say the negative things I tell myself, but I find her voice a little irritating in large doses. I'm obviously not quite where I want to be mentally, but doing this trick has really helped to switch the mental narrative in the past year. Story 124. Don't force a person to listen to the right answer. Give them breadcrumbs and let them discover it themselves, especially on the internet. Story 125. In order to get me to remember to do human things, I only remember if someone else also needs to do the thing. I can be sitting there unaware that I haven't eaten all day until someone either asks if I'm hungry or if they ask me to make food. Suddenly, my body realizes it should have sent those signals hours ago and sends all of them. Yes, this also applies to other basic things like breathing and using the bathroom. Story 126. I overthink everything, and I've had my fair share of existential crises. So around 2 to 3 years ago, I started to write a story in my head every night when I'm in bed trying to sleep, just so that I don't think about stuff such as the inevitable passing of my loved ones. The story in my head is now a very far-fetched tale with crazy character development for something that's never been written on paper. I know the designs of the characters, their personalities, capabilities, and many other things. I still add extra stuff to that same story every night before going to sleep. Story 127. Oh boy, I can't wait for the reactions to this. When my son was about 10, he was going through a stage of very bad behavior. I drove him out of town to New Norcia Monastery, which is about an hour out of town and is a spooky, old-looking building. I told him that it was the naughty boy school. Just left it at that. No further explanation. Turned around and went home. It worked. How to psychologically screw with your kids. Evil laughter. Answer. Once or twice a year, my parents used to drive us kids to an orphanage, park out front, and threaten to leave us there if we didn't start behaving better. We'd get terrified and cry. It was awful feeling that we were only loved and wanted if we behaved perfect. I think it was one of several emotionally harmful behavior things they did that still affect me to this day. 10-10, don't recommend. Story 128. When you walk and someone walks towards you, you can actually control which side they will pass you. I have made some funny scenarios where people would do that little dance all by themselves while I just walk as if they aren't there. Story 129. If you are a heavy procrastinator and you feel like shoot because you don't do anything, but then when you want to do something you like, well, try the 2 minutes rules. Just get up and do something for 2 minutes, like brushing your teeth or just clean a table, and it will give you a sense of completion. This way you aren't overwhelming yourself, and eventually you will have more energy to do things for longer. Something they also working for me is setting a timer for 30 minutes or hour and getting things done before time's end. Also saw advice from a monk. When head out of bed, make your bed immediately. It will get your productivity going. Story 130. If I start to get anxious or worry about something bad happening, I tell myself not to be an idiot and assume the best possibility instead. It almost always works. Bad things still happen sometimes, but at least now I'm only upset for half the amount of time as before. Story 131. Well, this is more of an open trick that works on most people. But if you want to get into someone's good graces or just have them open up a bit, ask them for a favor or advice you know they can do, even if you don't actually need their help. It shows vulnerability and willingness to connect. It implies you respect their expertise and input and puts you in a situation where they might come to you for a favor, furthering your relationship that hopefully blossoms into a friend or at the very least a reliable acquaintance. Story 132. Pretending to be confident when I'm not. I've had situations where I was really nervous and self-conscious, so I made myself act like I thought a confident person would, and it totally worked. I felt better, and people treated me like someone cooler, calmer, and more collected than I really felt. Story 133. I walk up to Sally at work and say, I know what Brad said about me. Once they start acting nervous, I know Brad's been talking shoot. Story 134. When I have an ex or a man harassing me and always trying to work into my life and ignoring isn't working, I gray rock them. Works every time. Story 135. When I need to dry swallow a pill, I picture cutting a lemon, rolling the lemon on the counter to juice it, giving it a good squeeze, and grabbing a knife. The cut in the lemon skin sprays a citrusy mist through the air, and all of a sudden, my mouth is full of saliva, and I can swallow my pill without worrying it'll get stuck in my throat. Who needs a glass of water when I have my imagination? Story 136. When someone has the hiccups and can't stop, say stop with authority and maybe a little annoyance in your voice. It usually surprises them enough that they'll stop hiccuping. Then let them know that's what you were doing and you weren't actually annoyed, obviously. Story 137. Probably complimenting me would get you anywhere. I have low self-esteem, so being called pretty would work. Story 138. Every time someone is mean mugging you or tailgating, just pretend that they must like you and just want a closer look. Story 139. If I forget something I need to do, I put it in the vicinity of where I am. So if I walk past said object, I can remember I need to do said thing. Story 140. Fake it till you make it. I swear this is working for me countless times. Sometimes I surprise myself. Story 141. When a waiter or waitress puts his hands on my shoulder, it makes me think they are a good more money and maybe tip them more. I don't know if I ever do, but I learned that was a trick I read or saw somewhere. LOL. Story 142. When someone questions my method of parenting, it's guaranteed to trigger my paranoia and anxiety, making me self-conscious and sometimes irritable and angry. I'm already self-conscious about how I represent myself as a father, and when someone questions a choice I make as a parent, I go into a spiral of self-doubt. Not a positive psychological trick, but a psychological trick nonetheless. Story 143. In my formative years, I did everything possible to not grow up into an incel. And by that, I mean strictly avoid nerd spaces talking about shoot. I liked because I realized I'm not going to sit and talk about total war with a bunch of boomers as a 10-year-old thinking they're real-life general. I was 10, so that was fine. But fudge talking to some 40-year-old thinking he was by the age of 22. I came across 9 potential partners wanting my male body part, and I rejected them all. Imagine being on 4chan and seeing people spam, "I want to fudge Aqua" in Konosuba threads and think it will be a positive influence on me to join in and spam it all day, while in my formative years, or some anime thread on a completely unrelated board to anime, being spammed with waifu shoot within 5 posts and think, joining this when this dude was spamming, TF, yeah, no GF, not too long ago will be beneficial for my mental health. This is peak intellectual discourse. Just don't fall for meme traps laid out for 8-year-olds to turn them into freaks, and you'll turn out just fine. And make sure they pick up extracurricular activities that doesn't involve anime or gaming. You don't want your kid to be 30 years old, turn to the hot chick next to them into club, and say stupid shoot like, "You're uwu kawaii gomenasai." Story 144. Saying my name when you talk to me instantly makes me like you more. IDK, man. I just love hearing my name in normal conversation. Story 145. All you need is a polo, charisma, and a ladder, and you can get almost anywhere. I used to work in hospitals, banks, government buildings, airports, stadiums, basically any commercial environment you can imagine. 99 of the time, my credentials were never looked at or challenged. Government buildings were the most difficult because they have specific standards to abide by. If you take charge of the situation, use technical language, look people straight in the eye, and explain where you need to go, you can get the keys to the castle. It's a bonus when you use names of the associates above them. Story 146. Convince me there's cute animals involved, or appeal to one of my hyperfixations. I'm actually pretty easy to persuade to do anything that doesn't conflict with my moral compass. I'm even easier if there's a new experience to be had. Story 147. My wife figured out that if she grabs my male body part during a mild argument, my brain reboots and I lose complete track of what I'm saying. Story 148. Not feeling to work. Don't work. Open your work and look at it. Leave it on your desk or a screen and look at it. Once your thought process is started, you will work. Not 100 effective, but pretty good. Story 149. Guilt tripping. I will go to the ends of the earth to avoid being a burden to others because guilt was used in my youth to control me. Story 150. I used to have tons of temper problems in grade school, and a guidance counselor told me to slowly count down backwards from 10. If I'm still upset, do it again slower. My emotions still run high and my temper flares, but I almost never let it get the best of me anymore. Most people I know now as an adult are shocked to find out I used to get in fights at school all the time. Story 151. Might as well. I saw it a few months ago on here and my life is a lot cleaner and better organized. I'm not saying you should constantly be working or cleaning or whatever, but a lot of things can get fixed in your immediate life if you sometimes say might as well. Might as well clean that dish. I know that sounds like a Jordan Peterson line, but I'm honestly not trying to be like him. I don't always follow it, but those 2-3 minutes don't hang over you for hours or days now. It's more about mental health and sometimes just doing something quickly so you don't have to think about it makes a world of difference. Story 152. Find out what subjects or topics someone you're having a conversation with is trying to talk about, then ask them active listening questions to show interest and encourage them to talk more about the subject they want to share with you. Some people call it being friendly and welcoming, but hey, tomato, tomato. Story 153. Every time a woman has flashed her Cheerios, I gotta watch. Dunno why. Subliminal shoot. Works every time. Can't shake it. Story 154. Om Mani Padme Hum. Think it means compassion or something like that. Taking the time to breathe and let the blood pressure go down before opening my mouth in anger. Count to 10 types of things. Story 155. I think the placebo effect is real. If you think happy, you become happy. Change your internal dialogue to change your result. In therapy, these are called coping skills. Story 156. Like Pavlov demonstrated, take any positive thought, behavior, or action and tack it onto a thing you react to, interact with in life. By always associating the new secondary internal response with the trigger point, you can learn to unwind the mental knot that is your reactionary, unconscious response. For example, I think of something like phrase, for what purpose am I modulating myself through this substance action? To check in with myself as to what I want to mull over and process through the altered perspective. It helps give positive intentions to both recovery and play. Story 157. Reverse psychology. I tell myself to not eat an entire box of cookies or bag of chips, but I always do. Story 158. This came for a meme, but it actually helped me quite a bit. Ignore what or how you feel after 9 p.m., but not so drastically. In case you overthink a lot or have uncomfortable, unpleasant, or intrusive thoughts, don't take them into consideration. Might sound a bit extreme, but it's just so that you don't end up letting your bad thoughts affect your everyday life or your overall mood. Just accept you weren't thinking clearly, you were probably sleepy or venting internally from a long day. It kind of worked for me because I have lots of trouble falling asleep, and the more time I go without sleeping, the more overthink. Not in a bad way, just as something I don't do on purpose, and I'd avoid if I could. Story 159. You don't have to do it all at once, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Fill the sink with water and put some dishes in it. I wash a few when I want to rinse off my hands anyways. Wipe off the mirror in the bathroom and then go on with your day. Wipe down the handles of your kitchen cupboards and be done. Little by little, it makes a nice difference in my life. Story 160. Sometimes I feel like I don't do as much stuff when I'm around my wife. So basically, most of the time, it is easy to just slack off. For some reason, we often make everything chill when we're together. But when I imagine, if I was home alone for a few weeks right now, I would be doing something else. Probably something productive. Maybe I'd go for a walk. Maybe I'd deal with the stuff that needs to be done. And then I can get up and start doing it instead of slacking off. Story 161. When taking to go to sleep, I learned to let my thought wander unfocused. I don't concentrate on anything, and I have a few random thoughts, and then I'm out. Literally, I'm asleep with 5 minutes every time. Story 162. Focus on your peripheral vision to clear your mind. I find it very difficult to think about anything when I do this. Story 163. I once heard Oprah say that hunger is the feeling of your body accessing its fat stores for energy. This is laughably false, but as a psychological trick, it is A. Story 164. Giving myself a countdown till I do something if I'm having trouble doing it, like getting out of bed. Not like a stressful countdown that I need. Go do it before it reaches 0, just once. My count reaches 0, I will do X like a launch sequence countdown. It's really useful. My body will always follow through, and I don't need to encourage it to do whatever I wanted to do. Story 165. As a procrastinator, the set a timer and work on one chore at a time does it for me. I'll wait to fold the clean laundry until it's covering my floor in bed and I don't have clean underwear. If I set a 15-minute timer 2-3x a week, I can keep on top of it. Story 166. Strategic vulnerability trauma dumping. I'm super fudge vulnerable to it, which is why I immediately backpedal away from anyone who uses it when they first meet me. I just see it as manipulative at this point. Use good judgment as to who and when people are ready to hear your dark shoot. Story 167. If someone gets the hiccups, nonchalantly ask them to list the members of a set. Each outcome, list the planets in order from the sun or their 10 favorite. The effort put towards considering the topic will distract them from the hiccups, curing them so long as you don't call attention to the trick. It's not foolproof, and they need to have some familiarity with the topic, but it works way more often than it fails. Story 168. I have intrusive thoughts. I do exponents of 2 to get me to sleep when they act up. If I screw up, I start again. Usually I screw up once and don't get high enough to screw it up again. Story 169. I procrastinate. So if there is something I'm avoiding, I'll use something I absolutely dislike with a passion and tell myself I'm going to do that. Then I procrastinate on doing the thing I dislike by doing the thing I just don't like. Genko. I have to pay bills and do taxes. What a great time to tackle this enormous pile of laundry. Story 170. When I'm angry, especially if it's during an argument with someone I care about, I force myself to sit down and ask myself, is this going to matter in a week, a day, an hour? Most of the time, the answer is no. It helps me to put in perspective what really matters and helps me calm down and my anger to dissipate. Story 171. Stephen Colbert from the Colbert Report helped me out in a great depressed mode. Just fake being awesome while not being a jerk, but get all those insecure thoughts out your darn head and live like a champ. Saved my life. Story 172. Give people the benefit of the doubt like they don't know any better, and you won't spend time being mad with people that are oblivious to your feelings. Story 173. If I want to feel productive at all during the day, take a 5-minute break and clean out my teeth. Brush, floss, mouthwash, just taking out random junk, anything. For some reason it helps. Not sure why, but I think it's just a completeness thing. That's it for this video. Don't forget to support Vancher and my second channel, Vanchus. See you soon.